Hey everybody, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Impressions. This is our new podcast. We split the old podcast into two, so we're still at episode 8, even though this is the first episode. We'll never have to think about it again, though. I'm joined with my co-host, Austin Taylor. What's up?
See those games?
See those games?
Play those games?
You can climb those games, you know? You see those mountains, you can climb them, Austin.
I wouldn't recommend climbing your games.
Yeah, don't climb your games unless that's your thing. I'm not gonna kink shame here. But we played a couple games this what I will say is the week of November 17th. That Destiny 2 Beyond Light expansion came out, and I played a little bit of it. You know, I did a couple of the first missions. I had some trouble in the beginning because I was playing it solo, and the enemies they throw at you sometimes need a second person for some bosses and stuff. But this is the 5th expansion of Destiny 2. It came out November 10th, 2020. It came out last Tuesday. And it's pretty cool so far. It's on Europa. It's like I think Europa is a moon of Saturn, if I'm correct. And everyone gets ice powers, and they do some fun stuff to the ways that you can set up enemies. Oh, it's a moon of Jupiter, actually. Jupiter.
God, you gotta learn your celestial bodies, man.
I do. But let's see, the ice powers, you can freeze enemies. For my Titan, I'll throw this grenade and it'll make like an ice wall, pretty much. It's like purple ice walls because everything's embedded with the darkness.
Yeah.
Which, as a Destiny thing, is there's a great being called the Traveler who comes to the solar systems and brings the light to fight the darkness. And then you're like, oh, hey, I have enemies that I can fight with using the darkness as well.
Yeah, so like, wasn't this whole event this whole event was preceded by the Traveler glowing for several hours?
Yeah.
On the Earth Hub world of Destiny 2.
Correct. It was foreboding something to happen, and then they announced this after.
Yeah.
But so the Titan, I get an ice fist. It's like a glove kind of. And my super is I'll come down and I'll punch people. I'll do a Superman smash on people, and then I can freeze my enemies. And then I think the hunter gets a stasis field, and it'll slow enemies that are inside of it, and you can freeze them instantly. And the hunter gets it's kind of like a the warlock got an ice staff, actually. He got an ice staff.
There's a casting staff?
Yeah, I think it's a staff of ice.
Okay, so what does the warlock do? Do they shoot spells with this, or is this?
I didn't play as the warlock, so I don't really know too much. I'll check out this trailer really fast while I'm doing it. But the hunter gets a blade barrage, and he'll throw some blades as his super, and then he's got it's like an ice staff. It looks like a trident, kind of. I'm guessing you're stabbing people with it. Maybe some stuff's coming off of it. But it takes place in Europa. You're fighting the enemies, the Fallen, and they are currently up to no good. They are on Europa trying to get the ice powers from these pyramids that showed up, and they're using them to mess with the normal stuff that's going on in Destiny. So you're on Europa, and you get it like a distress signal, and you kind of start making a pact with the darkness to help you. Bad stuff going on. And then it's just like an ice trident that you'll leap in the air and you'll shoot some ice out of your trident as your super. Seems like.
Right.
Oh no, here's the super. No, you're floating around with your ice trident, and you can zap people with it. If you think of King Triton shooting electricity out of his trident at people or whatever he does, I don't know.
Beloved. You see, you said King Triton, and my immediate thought was beloved SpongeBob character, King Triton.
If he's shooting energy out of his trident, you can think of it like that, kind of.
All right. I mean, that's.
All right, let's see what the Stasis Hunter has.
That's
But
interesting.
Europa's very pretty. It's a big old snow planet, and like it's got some new weapons. They're doing this thing where they got rid of the original expansions from the game from base Destiny 2. So this is they're getting rid of the moons of Nessus, Titan, and I can't remember the third one. But Io is the other one, and they're adding the Cosmodrome back as well as keeping the EDZ on Earth and the moon from Shadowkeep, which is the other expansion. And
Yeah, so
then they are making it 60 gigs to install now instead of like 100.
so have you
So
explored like what the Cosmodrome's like now in this current iteration of Destiny?
yeah, it's pretty much the one from Destiny 1. It's the same area. It's got
Yeah,
some lost sectors if you remember from Destiny 2. They're like the hidden,
yeah.
I'll call them a little mini dungeon. It takes like it's got a little boss at the end. It usually takes about 6 minutes to clear or something. And then you have a new strike in the Cosmodrome. It's like a revamped version of one of the witches who was on Earth. You would fight. It's like Omnigul, I think, from the first game. And then what was the other thing I was trying to think of that they're doing? They're doing this thing to get rid of power creep, where they will vault certain weapons at certain expansions. So guns that came out with base Destiny 2 will have a shelf life of 2 years, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't upgrade the power beyond like let's say it's 1100. And so they're capped at certain points. So they want to get rid of older legendaries. All the exotics are going to stay in there though.
All right.
And what else was happening on Europa? Oh, so they do the thing that I like in Destiny campaigns where they put the strikes into the campaign. So I beat 2 missions and then I got into the strike for that area, which is really fun.
You say like put strikes in campaign, do you mean like as like story progress or like what?
Yeah, it's like a mission. So the third mission
Okay.
is one of the strikes on Europa.
Okay.
And
And so I guess like
then
what is your objective on Europa?
you're trying to defeat this ice. You're trying to defeat one of the fallen leaders. Let me see what her name is. I should have written this down, I guess. But it's kind of like a bad guy from Forsaken. I can't find her name anywhere. But
Yeah, so like
it's
the
a
fallen
leader
are
of the fallen that's
yeah,
like broken off, and they reference her and like being like, "Oh, she helped gather people during the Prison of Elders and stuff." Like Varix is back from the
Shadowkeep?
Varix was in
Or oh Forsaken.
House of
Because
Wolves,
Forsaken's
yeah.
yeah.
So in Beyond
Yeah,
Light,
interesting.
Varix is back. He was one of the guys from the one of the original Destiny expansions. He was like a fallen guy who would help you out, and he was living on the what are the space elves in this game called?
The Awoken?
Yeah, the Awoken like home world. Like he was helping out in the House of Wolves DLC.
Alright.
Got
Yeah.
his arm pulled off, but it's all right so far. I haven't beaten it yet. I'll maybe when I beat it, I'll come back and talk about it a little more.
Yeah. Because I know like the whole like thing with this is like for their like like narrative wise, it's like they're bringing back like the stranger is her name?
Oh yes, I forgot to tell you about. There's a new core group of like guardians that are like doing stuff together. So there's the fire team of people you kind of who have already grabbed the darkness powers because they're on Europa is the stranger from
Hmm.
Destiny 1. They basically replaced Cade with the drifter, who's like the guy who runs Gambit, but he's also just another cowboy dude, pretty much is how I explain him. And then Eris from the Taken King, the one with the crazy like green ball.
Yeah, it was like I think the ball is like isn't there a ball like that like orbs like the core of like a what's your little companion dude?
Oh, your ghost.
Yeah, like isn't it like the core of a ghost or something?
I don't know. But okay, here's her name's Aramis, and she wants to reactivate a Vex portal in Clovis Bay. And she's also been harvesting like the darkness powers because all the pyramids showed up in our solar system pretty much. So you're trying to defeat her and do some other stuff. And then bad things are happening because of the pyramids. You're basically trying to do stuff with the pyramids. This has been the story so far. Is you're just fighting some fallen dudes. It doesn't really change up the formula too much from like the Forsaken stuff. I think they're given some new powers, and they have Season of the Hunt, which is going to come out after. It doesn't say anything about this, but it's their free content that comes out after, and it's going to focus on Osiris the Spider, and Uldren Sov is going to be resurrected, the guy who killed Cade in the Forsaken DLC.
Oh, the Awoken Prince dude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to be back for this. It comes out November 17th, and it runs till February 9th. So a week after the original DLC, their Season of the Hunt, like, it's what I would call their extra DLC, which usually has a couple extra story missions that are based on something else, and then some new exotic quests and stuff. All right, I think that's all I got to say about Destiny.
Yeah, I mean, it has this like, is this like I guess like how do you feel about like what like Destiny's like current like roadmap is?
It still feels mostly the same as like a new DLC drops. You know, it's not like they're putting out a Destiny 3. I think they're going to have their yearly DLC where you have your campaign missions in a new location, and then you got some strikes. And it's just kind of like a hobby thing where, hey, once a year in September or November, I'm going to be playing some Destiny with some friends, and we're going to be shooting stuff and having fun on the strikes. It's not like they're changing anything or making anything like bigger. It's just, here's the planet, here's the missions. It's very typical Destiny missions. You know, you run in, you shoot some dudes, you go somewhere. Maybe you beat a boss as set up like as a strike.
All right.
Yeah. You've been playing some stuff.
Oh, I've also seen a video game.
Do you want to talk about Bloodborne or Total War Saga first?
I think we'd probably start with Total War Saga.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like it's the lightest thing here. So, you know, we mentioned this like pretty early in like the news section of the news pod is that I, you know, sort of started watching a lot of movies for the first time in like a while. I started watching movies again. And so I ended up watching Troy, the sort of the Brad Pitt sort of Greek epic, like probably one of like the last like big like epic Greek movies I think we ever got from like Hollywood. And like opinion of the movie aside, it's fine, all things considered. And that got me into the idea of going back to a Total War Saga Troy again, and this time deciding to, instead of continuing my sort of my Amazon faction playthrough, decided to play as Achilles to see like what does this whole situation look like from that perspective. Mainly the perspective of like a faction that was like put in the base game and like designed to I think work in a more traditional like way with Total War's mechanics. And turns out it's kind of bad. Like the battles like the battles within Troy are like still like function the same like between factions, right? So you have a lot of just fast foot units. And Achilles starts off with like a pretty significant army from Tithia,
Mhm.
and you're immediately just thrown into conflict with your neighbor, and so you got to go wreck his shit because he doesn't have anything on you, right? Because you're Achilles. And so you start off in these like going through these battles where I'm just completely going through all of my enemies. They're not providing any real resistance because like even if my units aren't getting the job done, I can just take my Achilles as a figure in the battlefield and just send him into any legion. He just tears through them like nobody's business. He's essentially, for like other Total War comparisons, he's essentially the Lu Bu of this game. Um, I realize that might not be like a very well known historical comparison, but it's important. Uh, and like the first several rounds of this game are me destroying my neighbors, and then as soon as I like took my neighbor out, I was kind of stuck with the realization that as I was going back through the cities that I had just conquered, no one likes Achilles. Every settlement that I owned was about to rebel against me. So I
Fun.
had to, so I had to summon new armies and like completely destroy my economy in order to garrison troops within these cities. So that way I could keep like the happiness up. And it was a really strange starting point because I'd never been at a starting point in Total War where like your base like settlements dislike you. I'm not entirely sure why that's there. I'm not entirely sure how to fix it because the building unit and management system of Achilles is so much less interesting than like what I got out of Three Kingdoms. Because whereas in Three Kingdoms you're given like about 2 to 4 plots of like land where you can make any sort of settlement. You start off in Achilles or in Troy, and you instantly have like pre-established buildings that all like serve like the same function, but none of them serve, at least from what I've seen, to raise my population's happiness. And I can't like tear them down and find a one that does. And I haven't seen one that does, even like going through like the entirety of the building map menu. So I'm just stuck with like 3 settlements with 3 cities that don't like me, that are all like about to rebel against me. I'm not entirely sure what I need to do to keep that from happening aside from garrisoning more troops. And all 3 of my neighbors have just gone to war with me.
Sounds like you're a bad neighbor.
Yeah, it turns out
Nobody
no
likes
one likes
Achilles, as it turns
Achilles.
out. Nobody fucking. You're just a fucking shithead,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I'm
You have
just
this
like,
really bad heel, and everyone knows it, you know.
yeah. And so now I'm at war with like 3 of my neighbors. One of them is like attacking my faction capital, and like a full army from like the south is coming up to just wreck me. And I'm kind of screwed. So I think that's the end of my Achilles campaign. That lasted about 30 rounds. Because I just don't feel like going through the death march of watching all of my shit just get fucked up.
I played
I
some
just
Bugsnax.
You played Bugs.
I did play Bugsnax. Do you want to talk about Bugsnax? Or sorry, I don't know if I cut you off while you're talking about Achilles.
I mean, no, it's really like I was hoping to walk away with like from Troy with like some new like appreciation for it, but I have just kind of walked away again with the thought of like, man, Three Kingdoms was amazing. But yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this Eldritch horror video game that you've played called Bugsnax.
Well, here I sent you a list of Bugsnax, and
Oh,
here
a
if you
list of
want
all
to,
the
yeah,
Bugsnax.
just so we can look at some Bugsnax. I like the bungers. We'll get into that in a sec. Okay, so came out on. There was no way to pre-order this, but it did come out on PS4 as well. I got it for $25, and I think you could pre-order it on EA, not EA, on the Epic Game Store for about $21. It came out November 12th, 2020. Young Horses, who made the Octodad, and then there's PS Plus. It's free on there.
Yeah,
So
it's
if you have
free
PS, only for
if you have a
PS5.
PS5.
But if you have PS Plus in general, you can just redeem it. So when you do get if you get a PS5, you can play it on there. But I had to buy the PS4 version. It's like $25. I'm fine. So the game starts out, and you're the main character, and you just look like a mascot, a fuzzy Muppet. They're all fuzzy Muppets. What's the mascot that everyone likes in hockey?
Gritty.
Yeah, you just look like Gritty. You're orange. You look down. You have like an orange belly. It's all in first person. So you're on this like airship going to this island, and you fall off the airship because there's like some pizza moth that you see, and then you flash back to you being a investigative journalist, and basically your editor is like, hey, you fucked up on all these other stories, and I know you want to do this Bugsnax thing, but I don't believe you
Oh
because you're going
man.
to find Elizabeth Megafig, who's like a I would call a not an archaeologist, but in that realm of like exploring, maybe an anthropologist or
Yeah, I think
something in that.
anthropologist is.
But you're looking for it's this island of Bugsnax. Nobody's ever seen Bugsnax before, and they go and they set up this town. There's a couple inhabitants who are on the island who you end up meeting, and your editor, whose name is Clumby, and she's like big wide glasses, and you're in her journalism room, and she's like talking to you about like, hey, you should. I guess I'll give this to you. Fuck it, just go out there. I'm interested in these Bugsnax. So she ends up just sending you out there. So you get there, and you're trying to find Elizabeth because she knows something's going on with it. So the first character you meet isn't actually Elizabeth. You met this guy named Philbo, and he's kind of an idiot. He's the self-proclaimed mayor of
Mm,
Snacksburg, which is the city they set up in Bugsnax. And he, when you bring up your camera, because you can take pictures of the Bugsnax, it will scan him kind of, and it'll say people's likes and dislikes, and it says that he likes Elizabeth, which is kind of funny. And then you'll scan someone else whose name is Beffica, and she just has 2 dislikes on there. She hates Philbo. But here, I'll send you the link to these characters too, because they're kind of cute looking. But Bugsnax is cool. You're just kind of so when I talk to Philbo, he's like, "Hey, he's passed out on the ground. He's like, I'm really hungry, man. You want to go get me a Bugsnax?" So you figure out that there are these animals on this island that are like weirdly. I guess you wouldn't call them anthropomorphic, but they're like if you combine a bug and a type of food. So the first one you meet is I think it's a razzleberry. It's like a raspberry mixed with. It's just a raspberry with legs, pretty much.
yeah.
All of them have googly eyes. And then you meet a rootle, which is a worm and a carrot. So it's just a worm. It's just a carrot with little legs that it's running around on. And they all do the Pokemon thing where they'll say their name.
Oh Lord.
The rootle will be like rootle, rootle.
Oh God.
Yeah. And then the best animal I found was a bunger. Great name, but it's like a rhinoceros beetle mixed with a burger. So it's like a burger with like the cloth wrapping around it, and then has French fry legs with googly eyes. And he walks around and goes bunger, 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 bunger. Then there's a barbecue bunger you'll find later. There's variants. Like they didn't
Yeah.
pop the island with like 100 like completely new Bugsnax. There's like the barbecue version of it, or like there's this guy called a Frider who's a spider with French fry legs,
You
and then there's variants of those.
gotta get that shiny Bugsnax.
Yeah, gotta get the shiny. If you catch like 1,000 Bugsnax, one of them will be shiny. There's like a white strawbee, who's they're kind of like ladybugs, I guess, is what this is comparing them to. But to catch them, you see the Bugsnax, you'll take your camera out, and you'll take a picture of them, and you'll get like a description of what they are, and you can go back and you can put that in your journal when you go get the journal eventually.
Okay.
And it will show you the path that they're walking. So this whole game is set up as a puzzle. To catch the Bugsnax, a Strawbee is really easy to catch. I see the path, I throw a trap down, and I walk back so that they're not scared. And then when they walk into the net of this trap I have, it'll highlight green on the sides, and I can activate it, and it'll trap it, and I'll have 10 seconds to walk up and grab the trap. And then I'll feed these Bugsnax to these people, and they Cronenberg change their body for the rest of the game. Like this guy, Philbo, has like 2 strawberry hands, and then he's got like I think he had carrots for legs because I fed him 2 Roodles after. So he's just walking around with carrot legs and strawberry hands, which I'm like. Eventually, this story gets to how weird and crazy these people actually are for eating these things and why it changes them. And there's like a main character who is like anti eating Bugsnax. He's just like, people should not be eating these Bugsnax.
And so, does that character like approach that like platform from the perspective of like these are living things, or like from the platform of like this is doing stuff to us?
I think there's 2 people that I think the first guy does it because he doesn't want to eat the Bugsnax and he wants to raise them.
Yeah.
And so you'll donate Bugsnax to him and he'll go put them in like it's kind of like an Animal Crossing museum, except it doesn't put them all in there. It'll randomly pick a couple to be walking around this open area. And I think there's a character later on who will be like, this is making us into monsters. But
man was never meant to play God.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe humans created these Bugsnax, you know. But so the Bunger is a bigger animal, and so I couldn't really catch him. But I used him to grab the spider one, or it wasn't the spider one. I used him to grab someone else. But the Bunger likes ketchup, so you can grab ketchup off of a plant, and I was squirted at stuff, and he'd go run off and charge it pretty much. And then at some point, I made 2 Bungers hit into each other with their horns, and that's how I could catch one. But every character in the game will basically have you get them 4 Bugsnax, and that'll be like your mission set for that character, and then you'll go on to a new area. And that's kind of how the game is set up, is that there's a bunch of puzzles and you're trying to figure out, like, one of them was there's a fryder on the ceiling, and I had to shoot ketchup at it, and it fell, and then I could activate my trap and grab them. Or I would use the Bunger to scare something out of a bush. I think it was there might have been a Strawbee in a bush. But it's pretty. Everything has googly eyes, and there's like a dark undertone of stuff that's kind of going on. A couple hours in. How do you feel about
like how dark this getting? How?
I don't know. Apparently, the ending is a little. It's very, very interesting. I've been hearing people talk about it. I'm not there yet, but I've been hearing the grumblings.
The grumblings of
The grumblings of Bugsnax.
The game asks us to look in the mirror and realize this is what we've done to ourselves.
Am I really the monster?
Who's the monster now?
Yeah. All right,
perhaps it was man all along.
Do a back-to-back of Blue Point games, but talk to me about Bloodborne, and then we both played. You played a Blue Point game. I played the original game. We'll talk about that in a second.
Game. Yeah, you played the game. Blue Point is aping. Yeah,
I played Bloodborne last week, and now you played the Old Hunters this week.
Yeah, so to keep the Eldritch vibe of this conversation going, like last week you talked about Bloodborne. I was like, Bloodborne, yummy yum.
You could eat that Bloodborne.
Yeah, I could eat that Bloodborne. And then I realized that I had a save in progress, and that this save was immediately at the start of the Old Hunters DLC, which is the one expansion that came out for Bloodborne the year after in 2016, year after it was released, the original game was released. And so this is about you as a hunter. Have you seen the amygdalas yet?
Say what?
in Bloodborne? Have you seen amygdalas yet?
No. What's that?
All right. Nothing to worry about.
Huh?
What? So there's a big. So there's a creature. There's a creature that you'll meet, and it's pretty dope. And this
Nice.
creature has the ability to like send you into what are called nightmares.
Hmm.
Um,
I already have
and
those.
it's pretty horrifying. And so one of them sends you into what is called the Hunter's Nightmare. And this is a place where all hunters who have participated in the hunt, who go crazy, or I don't want to say crazy, but who become so immersed in the hunt that they need it, right? They need the hunt and the process of the hunt. They need to continue to feed off of the blood that they shed throughout the hunt. This is where they go. And it's also the place that holds and conceals a great secret of the hunters and about something that they did a long time ago. So you go through this nightmare. It's a pretty like late game thing, so you fight like a lot of pretty tough enemies. There are some like hunters running around the areas just screaming, using like some absolutely crazy weapons that you haven't seen yet. And they do like huge damage. And this also has like the hardest bosses of the game, and I will like die on this hill and say this has the best boss in a From Software game uh in it. So with where I'm at in this DLC currently, I've just fought the first boss, who is Ludwig. Have you gotten that far? That you
No.
like that you
I
know who Ludwig is? Okay.
played like an hour of Bloodborne, I think.
Yeah, so like Ludwig is he's one of the like first hunters for like the church in Bloodborne. Uh, and he's like his techniques and weaponry is like the basis for everything the church uses. Um, and in the stream, he's like morphed into a large, multi-legged monstrosity that just does an insane amount of damage with every
Think
hit.
he ate some Bugsnax? Is that what happened? Could have eaten some
Maybe
Bugsnax.
he did the Bloodborne equivalent of eating some bug snacks and just consume some flesh.
It's like
Uh,
a big pot roast. Would that be what the bug snack would be?
I think it'd be multiple of those,
Yeah.
right? Because he's
Be
got
like a
multiple
werewolf
mouths. It'd probably be like
snack.
a horse, like some horse like stew, like cook some horse into it. Because he looks like a
Yeah.
really like big horse thing with like six mouths. Uh, it's wild. It's disgusting. His second phase is like where he gets like through the pain of your encounter, he gets like this moment of clarity, and he redawns his holy moonlight sword, which is like a big FromSoft thing, right? Like, there's a big thing in every like all of From Software's games. They have like a character or they have a weapon that is called like a Holy Moonlight Sword, which
Yeah.
is a magic sword that is. I like if you spec towards it, I will say that it kind of unlocks an easy mode, right? Because a lot of it is like magic projectiles that like fires that do a lot of damage if you are proficient in that type of damage. I beat him. It took a while. Um, it's a wild ride of a fight, and now I am fighting, and I'm in the middle of my favorite boss fight of the game, which is Lady Marie of the Astral Clock Tower. And
Nice.
her whole thing is that she guards like the secret of the Hunter's Nightmare, and like in order to like get to that secret, you have to fight her, and she's absolutely wild. She is I want to say she's a real like because like within Bloodborne, like you have like your sort of and strength and dex classes, right? Your dex builds that like just kind of uh like sort of define the type of damage you're doing with what type of weapons you can use. She's like a heavy like dex build, so like she's very fast. Uh, she also has like a lot of like blood abilities. Like halfway third way through her fight, she'll just like stab herself with her own sword, and just starts flinging blood blades at you. It's wild. It's good stuff.
Nice. Alright. Maybe you'll have to take me through I was about to say Bugsnax again, but
I was going to say, I
maybe
do
you could
not have
take me
Bugsnax.
through. Maybe you take me through Bloodborne one time. I'd do it with a friend. That'd be fun.
Yeah, Bloodborne's co-op is pretty wild. There's a lot that you have to set up to get it to work.
Yeah.
But
As
I think
per
we could totally do it. And if you ever just like also need to grind, you're gonna get to a point where you get like the chalices, and those
Yeah.
will like send you to like the procedurally generated dungeons that you can grind through in Bloodborne. That do have their own like narrative going on in them, but not one that you necessarily need to interact with.
I also played a From Software game. You know, I was watching all this coverage of Demon Souls on PS5, and I was like, man, I could just play Demon Souls on PS3 because I beat that when it originally came out in 2009 with one of my friends. I played the first level, you know. I started out as a royal, you know, and when you do that, you get a ring that'll regenerate your MP, and you start out
Yeah,
with a
magic arrow.
spell. Yeah, you get magic arrow, you get a wand, and then you get a rapier with like a little sword. And I don't think they're the lowest stats, but you have a lot of options to upgrade them. So I did not kill the tutorial boss. I think in Dark Souls, you go and you lose to him, and then you go beat him again. I can't remember what that guy's fucking name is.
Yeah, so
though.
the Vanguard demon in Demon Souls.
Yeah. I tried. I got him half health, you know, and then you get into this really small area in the tutorial, and he takes up about you could put 6 vanguards in this room pretty much. So when he's attacking you kind of have to get around the back of him. But I was shooting those soul arrows at him. But he crushed me. He kills you in one hit. I used to be able to kill him on like a fresh playthrough.
Yeah, the only way to like survive like one of his hits, from what I've seen, is like you have to start out as like a knight.
Yeah.
Because you start out with like a lot of defenses with your armor and such that you just don't have as a royal. Because your royal is your like spellcaster class.
Yeah. So I went through there and it was cool, man. It obviously doesn't look as good. It's a 2009 game, but aesthetically as it is, and it's quite nostalgic, and I was having some fun stabbing some dudes and getting shanked by like I think they call them like undead slaves or something, and they just have like a little sword breaker knife, and they're just coming at you like waving around like a madman pretty much. And they hit you like 6 times, and if like 3 of them come at you, you're just like done. But I died when I got to where you're basically facing a castle, and it's called the Boltarian Castle. And the first area is some steps you go up to, and you kind of go to the left, and you're trying to get upstairs to the second story. And then once you get to the second story, you can drop. There's like a stairwell on the right side of the castle that now you can go down, and you can open up a door that'll make you a shortcut, pretty much. So I died there, and then when I got back to the beginning, I ran all the way up and skipped all the enemies to get back to where I was. So that was kind of fun, remembering how you can like juke enemies. And when you kill an enemy, you can kind of like you'll run past an enemy's body and it'll pick them up and fling them around because the physics are so silly in that game. Did you watch people beat someone? How did you interact with Demon Souls when it came out? How did you know about the Souls?
I didn't. Like I didn't know about Souls until Dark Souls, and that's because like I was a 360 kid. So like Demon Souls was not even on my radar. Like I had understood like when I started interacting with Dark Souls, like once they made that free on Xbox Live, and I started interacting with Dark Souls, I was like, okay, like I get that there's this thing called Demon Souls that came out before, but it's on the PS3, so I'll never get to play it because at the time I thought I was going to be an Xbox lifer, right?
Mm-hmm. Why'd you get a PS4?
The whole Xbox One DRM stuff,
Oh yeah.
Like part of that was like when Visa announced the Xbox One, like they had that whole like you need to check in your console like every 24 hours, and you can't share games with your friends and that sort of stuff. And the PS4 was like, hey, this is gonna work just like it, like just like consoles work. And it's like, okay, cool, I'll buy that.
Or it's like they had that trailer where they're like, "Hey, here's how you share a game," and then one guy would pass it to the other guy.
Yeah, they had Adam Boyes and
Yeah.
Shuhei Yoshida just like hand off a PlayStation 4 game to
Oh,
each
that
other
was
and then
easy.
stare at a camera.
Adam Boy.
They absolutely just Microsoft like I don't think we really attribute the fact like enough people like remember the fact that Microsoft gave Sony this generation on a silver platter as far
Yeah.
as console sales go. Um,
But
but yeah,
Demon
so that's
Souls.
so then
Were you
um
getting hyped about Demon Souls when you saw those PS5 trailers, or was your hype before those PS5 trailers?
I would say like I was getting hype as I saw the PS5 trailers because I never had a chance to interact with Demon Souls. I didn't know what like because aside from like this PS5 remaster, which is probably gonna be the way I play this game, despite like my
Yeah.
sort of problems with its aesthetic and design choices that Bluepoint made. Um, this is like the PS5 is gonna be how I play that game. So I was getting excited, um, like through that remaster, through the remake that Bluepoint was doing more so than like what I'd seen of like the PS3 gameplay because it was until like a few weeks ago when I was like, there are like actual PS3 emulators that I can get on this PC, but I also need to like get a PlayStation 3 in order to be able to dump like these files into my PC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so even
they sell those really really slim PS3s with the sliding cover. It's like
yeah,
the second slim or the third PS3. But it was cool to go back to Demon Souls. I got it for $20 on eBay, and so the servers are offline, but you can still play it by yourself.
yeah, so there's no multiplayer component in this
No, but
iteration.
thankfully you can solo a lot of the bosses because there's this guy called Tower Knight you beat in Boletaria Castle, and he'll just give you a spell that's like a shield aura around you, and you just take like nothing for damage, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, thing here isn't like there's a boss in Demon Souls that is like a summoned player, right?
Yeah, but they will just give you a random dude if
Yeah,
the servers are offline,
yeah. So like
or
what
if they can't find
happens?
someone.
Yeah, if the server's being offline, like there's like a basis, like there's a default like move set for that character.
Mhm.
And like if they can't get anyone to like come in and act as the character, they just give you like you just fight that like bot basically, which
Correct.
is not which isn't bad. Like that's how like every other boss fight works, you know, is you fight the standard like listed behaviors and such. But I just think there's something special in like part of how that boss works that is definitely lost when you once they shut down the servers. God, now I'm looking at this PS3 version of Demon Souls,
It's all right.
and
Looks all
no,
right.
it looks great. Like this is I'm gonna say it like this is more evocative to me than what I'm seeing on like the PS5 because the PS5 version looks like a generic dark fantasy. And not to say like the PS3 version wasn't already kind of inching that way, right? But like the limitations that like they had at the time like make like the Vanguard demon look a lot more interesting to me than it does in the PS5 remake.
Yeah, it's a little. It's like the PS5 one is definitely prettier, but the PS3 version has the better looking character model.
Yeah. He's like from I've seen like from the Demon Souls, like for Demon Souls specifically, because they kind of moved away from this as time went on. A big thing with From Software, with Miyazaki as the lead, was that he wanted every creature to like look like it was decaying and dying, but like wanted it to look dignified in a way.
Yeah, and they're all very like they're all the they're all beautiful in a weird way. They're not like decaying and decrepit like Dark Souls is.
Yeah, and then like when I look at the Vanguard Demon in like the PS5 gameplay, like it looks like it's falling apart.
Yeah.
And like I mean, you know, it's not something I'm into, right? I don't like it. Like that's my kind of my opinion there, but it's fine. Like I don't think Blue Point has ruined Demon Souls. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying it looks different in a way that makes it look less interesting.
True. You were speaking of Blue Point stuff. You played more to Shadow of the Colossus on PS4.
Yeah, yeah. So we can sort of keep the Blue Point bit going. Yeah, so before they did Demon Souls, their last project was a remake of Shadow of the Colossus on the PS4, giving it 4K textures, 60 frames a second, just an insane amount of detail that no one could have dreamed of when that game came out. And yeah, here's the thing: Shadow of the Colossus is still like great.
One of my favorite games.
Yeah, it is so unique in a real way. Like when I first played that game, like when it came out, this remake when it came out, like I felt like I'd never played anything like it, and I still don't think I really have. Um, and yeah, and so like there's a lot going on in this remake, obviously, because it is like a complete like redo of a PS2 game, right? Not like a PlayStation 3 game. Like this is like straight up a remake of a PS2 game. So like the Forbidden Lands have so much more detailing. They're so much more lush than they were from what I've seen of the PS2. Because like the PS2, so much of that version of Shadow of the Colossus looks like overexposed by its camera in a real way. Like
Yeah, it's
the
pretty
sun is,
orange. It's
yeah,
flat in some areas. It's very flat.
yeah, like the sun is so harsh in that game's world that like you can't get like a clear look at the bridge that you cross over as you enter the Forbidden Lands in the opening scene, unless the camera's like really close to it because the sun is just going to overexpose everything. And there's something to be said that like the reason Shadow of the Colossus looked like that on the PS2 is because they had limitations. Right. And so the idea of Blue Point's remake was to remove those limitations and make this game like look like how a powerhouse like AAA like game would look nowadays. And it definitely changes something, right? Like don't like that changes something about the game's like whole aesthetic. Um, and I don't know if it loses anything. I haven't played Shadow of the Colossus on PS2. I was not like into that game on the PS2, so like I don't have like much of a history with like its original like look or anything. But what I will say though is the general aesthetic of Shadow of the Colossus is so singular that I don't think any changes that Blue Point made to its aesthetic are like are that bad, you know? Like they don't make me like the look of Shadow of the Colossus any less because there's nothing that has the look of like the bridge or each individual Colossus as they emerge from like whatever hidey hole they were waiting for you in to come out and just be like, "Yo, I'm here."
And sometimes those guys will like not even fight you until you go up and aggro them.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
That they're like docile creatures who you're like just murdering. Is like
Yeah,
another thing like that I really liked when I played that game when it first came out.
yeah, and that's a really like impressive thing about Shadow of the Colossus that like that Team Ico made and like that Blue Point was able to keep is that these colossi are just these lumbering, awkward giants that don't look like anything like made from nature because they aren't.
No, they're all like
Um,
stone creatures with
yeah,
like fur and like black skin usually.
yeah, like the fur that has like grown on them, you can tell is just like stuff that has grown on like the skin that is their skin, which is kind of just like compact soil in a in a way, right? Like kind of looked like someone really just like compressed dirt. And so like most of what their fur is kind of like these weird like strains of grass that have grown over their skin. And they're all really awkward and interesting to look at. Uh, and they're all very beautiful. I cannot think of like a single look of these colossi I don't like.
No, they're all really good. I think my favorite is I like fighting the bird one where you have the water area around it and he's flying around trying to take shots at you and you have to climb a
Yeah,
this island tower that's in the middle that's set up so you'll get up there and you'll jump on the wing and you'll have to take him
yeah.
down while you're flying around the
Or
whole.
what you could do is like these like in that bird's like whole water area, you can get up on like these little platforms right above the water level. And as the bird is like coming down to make like to basically slam you with its wing, you can jump up and you grab onto its wing. as it's coming to slam into you. And that's like, I think it's the fourth Colossus you face. And that is, I will say, for me, more than any other, that is the moment where like the game clicks for
I
me.
think it's the fifth one.
No, the fifth
Avion.
one is the horse.
Oh, maybe this list is wrong. I'm trying to find the list of the Colossuses. I think it's 5. I think 4 is the horse. Anyway, no, I had that copy. I have a PS2 copy of that. I got the HD pack. I have a Japanese HD pack of Shadow of the Colossus and Ico that's in like a special edition case. That was my favorite that was my middle school coming of age weird Shadow of the Colossus fighting these dudes.
Weird.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
yeah,
5.
it is the fifth. That's
Yeah.
strange. I think that really just speaks to how unmemorable the fourth Colossus is.
The worst one's okay because you have to like the underground tunnels, and he'll look down, and you'll have to jump on him.
Yeah, but it's like, thing is, the first one's not as like interesting as the third or even the second one, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing about the fourth Colossus that is particularly interesting in its mechanics or even
No.
really its look. And that's something to be said about like the Colossi. Like they're all very singular. They all look very cool, but like there are definitely some Colossus that are much cooler than the others.
I think they all kind of stand out in my head as being like they're all different. You're all doing something different enough, except for like the humanoid ones. Like 3, you have to make it hit the rock circle to break the armor, and then you climb it. And then what's the next human Colossus?
There's the Barba, which is the
Yeah, it's
big beard
Barba.
one.
I think you fight him in the underground Coliseum, don't you?
Yeah, there's like a temple or like I'd say more temple-like than Colosseum.
You have to make him like break through. The Coliseum's the lizard one who climbs on the walls.
Yeah.
How far did you get anyway? Did you beat
Oh, I
the?
finished. I finished this.
You finally got through, and you beat Malice, the 16th, the
Yeah,
Tower Colossus.
yeah. And there's something to be said of like what the priorities of this game, like of this remake, were, because they certainly weren't like prioritizing making movement any better.
No,
Because by the time you get to Malice, it just sucks.
yeah, that's why you got to get good.
Yeah,
When I played that first game the first time, I got good, Austin. Okay?
yeah. There's definitely
Just joking.
yeah. That's fine. It's just really awkward too, because you have to be jumping from like his hands like onto like hands, right? Like you need to jump from his body onto his hand, climb around his hand to where it's steady, and then you need to hit another mark, then jump onto his other hand, get his hand to steady out so you can shoot an arrow onto a mark on his shoulder, and then you can climb his head. Right? It's the movement and climbing are not refined enough to make that boss fight really like good for me. Um, but I don't want to talk about that
It probably
Colossus.
took me 2 or 3 times to beat it. Not gonna lie.
I
I'm trying
would,
to remember.
yeah,
I'm trying to remember the fun stuff I had with Shadow. Just wandering around on Agro or
yeah,
Aro as you're like getting from Colossus to Colossus, and there's no like enemies around. It's just the open world and the Colossuses, and you're trying to travel between them.
yeah. Like this
Really
open
enjoy.
world is so good. This is probably like Shadow of the Colossus makes me like open world games less every time I play,
Yeah,
because there is such an intentionality in the space that you inhabit and like what the Forbidden Lands are trying to convey about like their like about themselves, like through like the lack of foliage, and like specifically like in the PlayStation 2 version, that kind of gets a little lost in the PS4 version, considering how like lush it is. Um, but I think they generally speaking do a good enough job. But like the Forbidden Lands is such a evocative space to me. Like the Shrine of Worship is so cool. It is just this giant tower in the middle of this otherwise desolate place, connected to like a gate miles away by a bridge that looks like it could just fall apart at any time. Uh, and it like almost like if you see it in the PS2, it looks like someone carved this temple out of like a giant stone in the middle of this landmass. And then if you see it on the PS4, it looks like a very just dilapidated temple uh, that has been reclaimed by nature in a real way. And
There's such a good thing they do in that game where it's just everything is there's just nothing in this world. And it kind of seems like it feels like a wasteland at times, even the areas that are like lush with greenery, or it's just like a plains going out across. It's just there's nothing. There's birds. There's some the little temples you save at
yeah, the
between
shrines.
bosses, and then there's some lizards and some apples you can go find. But besides that, there's just nothing. The only thing to tell you where to go is you beat a Colossus. You wake up at the original. You said it was the shrine. What's the
Shrine of worship. Should
So
we
you wake up at the shrine of worship, and then the only thing telling you where the next one is you'll point your sword in the sun, and it'll make some fractals, and you have to line them up to make a beam, and that's where you go. That's
should we actually
it. It's the only
introduce
thing.
the plot of this game?
What?
I feel like I forgot to introduce the actual plot of this game,
Oh yeah,
which
go
is
for it.
you arrive at the Forbidden Lands to revive a woman, a dead woman whose body you're traveling with. Relation to the woman never made clear. Her name is Mono, and you are given a task by the god Dorman to go and slay these 16 colossi across the Forbidden Lands.
Yeah, it's such a great series.
It's a really great like. I don't think like the narrative itself is like much to like talk about because it's very like simple, right? Like for any other medium it'd be very simple. But like just the feel of the cruelty that you are dispensing as you just mindlessly murder all these colossi, and you are slowly being like corrupted by the sort of the energy that emerges from them and seeps into you is, I think it's very like interesting and like evocative like stuff that they're working with on it on like a visual level.
And oh man, holds a
What's your
deep place in my heart. As a
what's your
kid,
favorite?
I was always looking on eBay for these Shadow of the Colossus. Like I think they were called One Piece figures,
Yeah.
where it was like a gotcha, and you would open it and you would get a different Colossus. And they were
Mm,
like it was like $200
jeez.
for these for like the whole set of them or something. I never bought them, but I always looked at them because they were really cool looking.
Yeah. What's your
I'll send you
favorite
a picture.
Colossus?
My favorite, I like 5 a lot, and I like the lizard one just because it's like crawling around and you have to shoot the arrows into its chest. I think.
Hmm. Yeah, you have to
How
like
about
you have to get it to like climb up to you and expose its belly like inadvertently.
yeah? I always had a good
Uh,
time with that one. And then there's the one, the smaller. There's like it's a smaller animal, and you have to make it run into these pillars, and it'll roll over on its belly, and you'll jump on its belly. Time attacks were also one of my favorite things of that. I never beat the hard mode time attacks. I don't think I got around to it. Oh, but look at these figures, Austin. The only merch they ever made for this fucking game were these fucking. They're called Kotobuyaki One Coin Grande. They're from 2007, and they're so small. I just wanted all of them. I'll never get them.
yeah, I could see. I could see why. Like this is if I were to collect anything from a game, it'd probably be this in a real way. That'd probably just be like I'd want like a phalanx sort of thing. That's the 13th Colossus, the big just like flying serpent.
Oh yeah, that one's really good too.
Yeah,
There's some like Monster Hunter monsters that feel like they're inspired by Shadow of the Colossus, which Shadow of the Colossus in a way is also like kind of inspired by Monster Hunter. Like they at Shadow of the Colossus was originally just going to be like a 4-player co-op thing, and I think they decided to make it a single player story. But yeah, after I beat this game, I went back and like I wanted to go beat Ico, and then you're just sitting there waiting, fucking waiting for them to finally release the
the Last Guardian.
Last Guardian. Is it coming to PS3? No, it's gonna be on PS4 instead.
Well, I mean, like to be fair, they didn't like say I don't think they ever said it wasn't going to make it onto PS4 until like it came back in like 2016, or it wasn't going to be on PS3 until it came back in 2016.
They definitely had like that PS3 trailer for it.
Yeah, like it still looked like the game that they were trying to sell on PS3.
Oh man, those are cool games. I wish they hadn't taken so long on Last Guardian, so they would have made more games. Because at the PS2 time, it's like, oh, we have the Sly Cooper people, the Jack and Daxter, and the Ratchet and Clank guys. Now we have this people who are making the Shadow of the Colossus, and maybe they're gonna get on PS3 and put 2 or 3 games out as well. But no, they made one game over 2 generations, and I don't think they make game. I don't think
they're not. Team Ico's not a
no.
thing anymore.
I think they stopped after Last Guardian because it took so long.
Yeah, well now, so the lead of both Ico and Last Guardian, or of Last Guardian and Shadow of the Colossus, Fumito Ueda has its own studio, and that's the studio that was like called in to basically finish work with Last Guardian.
Gen Design.
Yeah, Gen Design, and it's I want to I would like to see more from like Ueda and his group.
Yeah, there's just something about like the music in those games and the worlds that they build. That I'm just like, I love Ico so much, and Ico and Shadow of the Colossus they both do not run amazingly on PS2. Like even Shadow of the Colossus, it's framey when you get to those bosses. But the PS3 versions like put them both in widescreen, made the FPS better, or made them run better. So yeah, Ueda's Gen Design. It looks like Epic Games announced they would be fully funding development of their next game. So they're prototyping something right now.
All right, good. I want to see more. Like I was not super into The Last Guardian, all things considered, because of how like dependent that game is on Trico's AI.
Yeah.
Agreeing with you, but like there is still like something wholly like unique about like the worlds they make and their approach to games in a way that I don't think I've seen emulated in any particularly like interesting in any way that like I felt has lived up to, right? Because like there are some people who think like Shadow of the Colossus sort of inspired like a lot of like games that use like giant like bosses now like are probably like learned like that from Shadow of the Colossus, or like are trying to ape Shadow of the Colossus, but like no game like lets you interact with them in the way Colossus does, aside from like maybe Monster Hunter, and that's like not even that's like just an intended like a path that you can take aside from just slamming these monsters in the face with a very big hammer.
Yeah, there's this like weird connection you get to like the like the Colossus, where it's like every part of this Colossus because you've climbed over it completely.
Yeah.
Like there's this connection that you have to them.
Yeah, and then I remember like I want to say like 2016, 2017, there was this really big Kickstarter project called Pray for the Guards, which is now on early access on Steam. It's called Pray for the Gods. And like their whole thing was the team behind this was straight up saying like, yeah, we want to make our own take on Shadow of the Colossus in this way. And I was really interested in that project for a bit, but then as I read more about it, that team was like, oh, we're like they have like survival mechanics.
Oh,
And I lost all interest in it when the word survival mechanics popped up, because that is
yeah,
not at all what makes me love Shadow of the Colossus. Like I'm not having to worry about Wander, which is the tentative name of your protagonist. Wander's like water level, right? Like whether or not he's drinking enough water or eating enough of like the fruits that grow around the Forbidden Land.
yeah. That's all right. Well, all right, we're getting a little long in the tooth, so I'm gonna call it right here. Shadow of the Colossus, great game.
Yeah,
I have it installed. Maybe I'll beat it. Maybe I'll have beaten next week, and we can talk about it more.
yeah. No, it's good. Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, just you take it slow, like do two colossi, 2 or 3 colossi every so often. Just get it done pretty quick. It's not that long.
I can do a Colossus in 20 minutes, honestly. It's just getting to them.
Well, yeah, 20, like you can kill a Colossus in like less than like 5. Like
Yeah.
the only reason, like I was going back through the times because they added in like timed modes to the PS4 remake, or like more like time tracking stats, which is also not great. But I was looking at the times for like my Colossi runs, and everything from like the start of the battle to the end of the battle was like, like 5 minutes, like was like 3 to 7 minutes max. And then when you get to the final Colossus,
It's like 50 minutes or
it's like
whatever.
my run was 30 minutes because I had no idea how to climb that fucker's hand.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm a bounce. Thanks for joining us and our new show, Third Coast Gaming Impressions. We'll catch you next week.